Hello everybody, David Abram here. Welcome back to my channel as always. And today's medium for discussion is going to be on the subject of anti-feminism, or women who say they're anti-feminist. And I want to sort of talk a little bit about what I believe from a MGTOW perspective that this actually means when you look at the cards and you break it all down. Because as a MGTOW, I respect women and I see women as fellow human beings. However, we all know, as a part of human nature, we have, at some of our heart values, a self-interest. And I think the same thing applies to women, especially on this anti-feminist bandwagon. The reason, or at least part of the reason I believe women all of a sudden now, out of the blue, are deciding they're anti-feminist is a covert tactic to try to get men to listen to them and to negotiate with men so they can sort of reach a compromise to which men can return to the plantation. So, in other words, some part of me sincerely doubts that they're anti-feminist because they actually care about men's issues or care about the well-being of men and the welfare of men and the treatment of men in this misandric culture that we live in the West. I sincerely doubt they are concerned with male suicide. I sincerely doubt they are concerned with men who are not going to higher education, because 70% of university graduates, as we know it, are women, and 30% are men. And yet there's still a cricket of ongoing silence. So these are just my perspectives as a MGTOW, my thoughts. I don't speak for all MGTOWs on this. I think it is a mixed baggage. But, gentlemen, nonetheless, I think most of these women who say they're anti-feminists, I don't know if anyone else has noticed, but to me it seems like maybe they're traditionalists. They're either conservatives or traditionalists. And the reason I say this is because I think, truthfully, women who say they're anti-feminist, or some of them that say they're anti-feminist, want to go back to a setting before second wave feminism. They want to go back to a setting to where they were housewives, didn't have to work, didn't have to earn their own income, and chivalry was alive in the sense that the man took them in and basically provided for them, took care of everything, took care of the bills, took care of their medical expenses, took care of everything for them. Essentially, before second wave feminism, women had a gravy train, but didn't recognize it, at least on some level, and that's the setting they want to go back to. So, whenever you hear women say they're anti-feminist, I think that's important to bear in mind. They could very well be legit. I'm not saying all of them are phonies or all of them are just, some sort of tradcon or some sort of poser or attention whore. I think some of them are legit, like Karen Strawhan. Karen Strawhan, I think, is very legit in her views about feminism. But aside from her, I think there are some posers in this anti-feminist bandwagon of women. I don't think they are sincerely concerned about men. And if they are concerned about men, put it this way, how long has this whole feminism thing been going on? With the whole counterculture, that is. Second wave feminism started in, the 60s and the 70s, somewhere around there. So why is it they went 40 plus years in silence about the bias towards men? Men being brought through the cleaners, men losing everything they have, losing custody over their kids and the rights to their kids, losing all reproductive rights when it comes to children, and basically on the verge or being pushed to suicide. Why is it for 40 plus years women, specifically women, sat back on the sidelines, didn't say a word about it, and went on about their day? And not only did they sit back on the sidelines and not say a word about it and go on about their day, but many of them, as we see in the stats, were active participants. So, really, truth be told, they were co-signing it all this time. That's why 70 to 80% of divorces are filed by women. They were the ones who were bringing men through the cleaners. And people may say, oh, well, they didn't know what they were doing. They weren't happy. Well, that's just the thing. Nowadays, for a woman to divorce a man, all they have to really do is say is just dissatisfactory, unhappiness, without any other grounds. See, women knew about this from the very start, at least I think as a MGTOW. But the reason they didn't speak out against it, the reason they didn't stand up to it, the reason that they didn't, put their foots down and draw a line in the sand, like men were trying to do but couldn't do, because, if a man, God forbid a man actually talk out about the system of things with feminism, because if he does, he's a misandrist. If he does, he's a misogynist. He's a sexist. He's a bigot. He's a patriarchal supremacist. So he can't do it. And that's why men in the media always get criticism and always get some sort of branding label as a sexist or a misogynist if they dare speak out against the feminist regime. In fact, it's not even speaking out against the feminist regime. It's just in a simple disagreement over an issue. Anytime, if you ever notice, the feminist is met with a real argument, not a superstitious argument like patriarchal oppression, whenever they're met with a real argument, they always call it hate speech. It's because they can't answer arguments and they can't think. And I think the same thing goes right now in the sense of women who proclaim they're anti-feminist. They're not actually anti-feminist for the sakes of men or for the well-being of men. It's because there's a self-interest at heart. I think the reason they're anti-feminist is because they realize now, with things like the Skepticism article and other articles about their gravy train is on the verge of coming to an end. They're starting to realize that they can't get what they could previously get out of men, because men are waking up, men are opting out. Most young men today are not interested in marriage. They're not married, so they're single, and they're not getting involved in intimate, serious relationships. So, because of this, they're proclaiming they're anti-feminist in an attempt, I think, to bargain with men and to basically make a compromise or seal a deal with men in an attempt to try to bring them back to the plantation so they can get what they want. Remember, gentlemen, the one thing we all know about female nature as a whole, at the very core of it, is that men, in their terms and in their mind, are a beacon to which they place a utility value on and an asset value on. And their sole purpose is to try to attract these beacons so they can get these utilities and get these assets. So, whenever you hear women say they're anti-feminist, I would be very, very skeptical. And basically for the reasons I just stated, 40 plus years of all this going on, bias in the family court system, bias in the justice system, bias in education mediums, bias in academia, and the list just goes on. There's been an ongoing bias against men for 4 decades, at least 4 decades, if not longer than that, and they sat back in silence. So, those are my thoughts on this whole bandwagon of anti-feminists being women, and women who jump on these bandwagons. Truth be told, I think the only reason they are anti-feminist is because MGTOW is rising. And, like I've said, their so-called pass is running out, and it's going to expire soon. And this is one of their attempts, as always, to try to conceal a deal to preserve their pass, because it's on the verge of expiration or expiring. And as MGTOWs, I think most of us are aware of this, but I just thought I'd do a video to sort of jot out my 2 cents on this, because I think within time to come, we're going to see more women proclaim they're anti-feminist, and I think it's very important to understand their motive, or at least try to have an understanding of their motive, especially since we talk a lot about female nature, and to understand perhaps why they are truly an anti-feminist, and to sort of catch these red flags when we see them. But those are my thoughts as a MGTOW. Stay strong, gentlemen. Man power, continue to go your own way. Be very skeptical of these females who all of a sudden decide to be anti-feminist. What a joke. Notice how on these certain websites too, like Facebook and Twitter, when they say they're anti-feminist, they come on and they dress up like a doll. They dress up like a doll. I mean, we all know why they do this. They do this for some sort of sexual attraction in some sense, to get men's attention. They want men's attention because they realize they're not, because men are opting out. And that's what I think this whole women becoming anti-feminist bandwagon is about. They want male attention because men are not giving them the attention anymore. Or men are giving them less attention than in previous generations or previous years. Because women are used to, as we know, having a large selection of men to choose from, and men, on the other side of the coin, don't have as many to choose from. But they realize this is starting to be reversed, or this is tipping, and they don't have as much of a selection as they previously did. So now, this is their attempt to try to reverse that. And we all know women don't really reveal their cards until men reveal theirs. And this is how they manipulate men and keep men in line to establish or to maintain a social order. But that's all I got for this topic. What do you guys think? I know I was all over the place a little bit, but nonetheless, those are my 2 cents as a MGTOW about this women becoming anti-feminist bandwagon. So, what do you guys think? If I missed anything, or if you have another thought of line from this, please do feel free to leave it in the comment sections below. I like to get some conversations going, get a little gears turning in the head about these types of things, because I think it's important for us to catch these red flags and remain on guard so we don't fall head over heels to a trap, and then, before we know it, be drawn back to the plantation. So, yeah, that's all I've got to say for now, fellas. Stay strong, go MGTOW, man power, and until the next time, thanks for watching.